Picture an ancient human's day. You're probably imagining a nonstop fight to stay alive. Hunting from sunrise, running from lions, clawing for every last scrap of food until you collapse in the dark. That picture is wrong. Almost insulting, actually. Because the truth is, ancient humans had more free time than you do. A lot more. So if they weren't grinding every waking hour just to survive, what were they actually doing all day? No jobs, no bosses, no alarm clock, no commute, no meetings, no inbox. For hundreds of thousands of years, that was simply normal human life. The 9 to 5, is the strange, new invention. So let's walk through a single day, from the moment they open their eyes, and see how they really filled the hours. It starts with the sun, slow and unhurried. Nobody shakes them awake. Nobody sets an alarm. And there is nothing on the schedule at all. And here is the first shock. You'd assume the hunt for food swallowed every waking hour. It didn't. When anthropologists actually went and lived with modern hunter-gatherers, groups like the Hadza in Tanzania and the San in the Kalahari, they timed exactly how long people spent getting food. The answer stunned them. Somewhere, around 4 to 6 hours a day. Some estimates came in even lower. Split between the ones out hunting and the ones out gathering, a huge slice of every single day was simply free. Anthropologists even had a name for it, the original Affluent society. Not because these people owned much, but because they wanted little, got it fast, and kept the rest of the day for themselves. And before you assume the real grind was just hiding somewhere else, it wasn't. Even after you add in every chore, the firewood, the cooking, the endless mending of tools, the studies that tallied all of it still found they worked fewer hours than the average person does today. They were rich in the one thing we never seem to have enough of: time. So here's the real question. If food was basically handled by early afternoon, ancient humans were left holding the exact thing we chase our whole lives and never catch: empty time. Hours of it, every single day. What does a human being actually do with that much freedom, when there's no screen, no phone, no boss inventing tasks to fill the gap? The answer is stranger and warmer than you'd think. Mostly, they talked, constantly. This is the part almost nobody pictures. Ancient humans were endlessly social. They sat together and told stories. They argued. They planned tomorrow's hunt. And yes, they gossiped. But gossip wasn't petty. It was survival. Knowing who could be trusted, who pulled their weight, who was lying, who was sleeping with whose partner, that information kept the entire group alive. Language was their internet, their television, and their evening news, all running through a single campfire. Their hands were rarely still while they did it. As they talked, they worked, but the good kind of work: sharpening a spear, scraping a hide soft, twisting cord, carving bone, mending a broken tool. None of it rushed. It was slow, skilled, satisfying craft. The exact kind of thing we now pay good money to do, as a hobby on the weekend. And a surprising amount of the day was spent simply knowing things. Out on the land, every adult was a walking library. They could name hundreds of plants and tell you exactly what each one did. Which root would fill your stomach, which leaf would break a fever, which berry would stop a cut from bleeding, and which pretty little plant would kill you before sundown. There were no books to look any of it up in. All of it lived in memory, passed from mouth to mouth, tested and retested across thousands of years. When a knowledgeable elder died, it was like watching a library burn down. And here's a detail that flips everything you assume about who was in charge. In many of these groups, there was no boss, no chief barking orders, no one who owned more than anyone else. If a hunter came back dragging a huge kill and started strutting about it, the group would mock him. They'd call the meat scrawny and worthless, right to his face. It sounds cruel. It was actually genius. Teasing the big man back down to size was how they stopped anyone from turning into a king. Everyone stayed equal, on purpose. The children weren't in school, because school didn't exist. They learned by playing. They stalked imaginary prey with tiny sticks. They wrestled, chased, and climbed. Older kids kept an eye on the younger ones, which meant no parent was ever trapped alone with a screaming toddler the way parents are today. Raising a child wasn't one exhausted person's job. It was the whole camp's. And then there was rest, real rest. Ancient humans napped in the shade without a flicker of guilt. They lay in the sun. They did, quite literally, nothing. And nothing was not laziness. Their bodies were banking energy for the days that genuinely were brutal, the long hunts and the hungry stretches. Resting was strategy. through all of it, they stayed physically close in a way we almost never are now, pressed shoulder to shoulder, touching constantly. That closeness was the glue of the group, settling arguments before they turned into fights. It was friendship you could actually feel on your skin. And they made music. This is far older than you'd ever guess. Archaeologists have pulled flutes, carved from bird bone and mammoth ivory out of the ground, that are more than 40,000 years old, delicate little instruments with real finger holes, made with real skill. And those are only the ones that happened to survive. Long before them came the oldest music of all, the clapping, the stamping, the humming, a whole group's voices rising together in the dark. Music wasn't a performance for them. It was something you did together until the sound and the bodies and the firelight all blurred into one thing. Because, as the light drained out of the sky, the day didn't stop, it deepened. They pulled in close around the fire, and something shifted. Anthropologists who've quietly listened in on these evenings noticed it too. The daytime talk of chores and gossip fell away, and the night talk turned to something bigger. The ancestors, the spirits, the question of where the whole world came from. They stared up at a sky absolutely drowning in stars, with no city glow to wash it out, and they tried to make sense of it all. This quiet, firelit hour may be exactly where story, and art and religion were all quietly born. And here's the twist that ties the whole day together. All that empty time, all those idle hours we'd sneer at as unproductive, was not wasted. It may be the single most important thing that ever happened to us. A mind with nothing urgent to do starts to wander, it invents, it wonders, it notices patterns, tells new stories, tries a smarter way to shape a blade. Every tool, every myth, every song, every idea that eventually built the modern world grew out of ancestors who had the spare hours to think. Our boredom is where we came from. Now, don't romanticize it too far. This was not paradise. There were hungry seasons when the food didn't come. And everyone felt the emptiness. There was real danger, real grief. Children they held and couldn't save. So many that by some estimates more than a third never lived to see their teens. And there was boredom too. Long stretches with nothing new under the sun. But the shape of their day was fundamentally different from yours. The pressure was seasonal, not constant. When the work was finished, it was truly finished. No one lay down at night still carrying the weight of tomorrow, because here's what modern life gets backwards. Ancient humans never split work from life. There was no clocking in and no clocking out. The talking was the work, the crafting, the playing, the resting, the gossiping around the fire. All of it was the single job of being human inside a group that needed you. They were never off the clock, but they were never really trapped on it either. So the next time you catch yourself at 9 at night, staring at a screen, answering one last message, wondering where your entire day disappeared to, remember this. For almost the whole story of our species, a human day looked nothing like that. It was slower, it was closer. It was full of faces instead of tasks. We didn't evolve for the 9 to 5, we invented it. And some quiet, ancient part of us has been trying to find its way back to that campfire ever since.